of the lowest densities you're going to see in the state of Florida. And a lot of the land at that time was actually acquired from private property ownership, and it was put into public ownership, and it's managed by a variety of agencies: the Seminole State Forest, the Water Management District, DEP. And so we have a lot of protected land within the Lake County portion of the Wekiva planning area. In 2004, and see, at that time when they were looking at the river and concerned about the river, they were working on this concept of a beltway around Orlando. And in order to have the beltway make its complete circle around Metro Orlando, it would have to go right through this sensitive environmental region. So the planning began for the Wekiva Parkway, and how could this be designed in such a way as to protect the environment and the natural resources and the habitat and so forth. And so a tremendous amount of negotiating went into this planning of the parkway from its very inception. You had a whole variety of stakeholders: the Nature Conservancy, the Sierra Club, the Audubon Society. You had all of your environmental stakeholders, and then you had landowners, and you had government agencies, and all of that. And through that process, a compromise was worked out on where the parkway would be located, how it would be built to assure that the critters could go back and forth, and that one of the big concerns at the time was if the road stayed on the ground, then you would have animals hit, bears hit, all of that, and so they wanted to elevate the roadway. So in 2004, a new law was passed by the legislature, and that was the Wekiva Parkway Protection Act, and it went a step further in figuring out, okay, how are we actually going to build this road and do all of these things that we say we're trying to do with regard to environmental protection. And that's sort of where the rubber hit the road. Everybody started maps, and they saw how it would affect their own property. And one of the big issues, and I see Catherine Hansen, former county commissioner, here tonight, and she was very involved in this process. But one of the big issues for the folks that live in Mount Clemens Sorrento that use State Road 46 a lot was they didn't want to have to use a toll road for their daily travels. And so it was quite a coup, so to speak, that the landowners were able to get together and exert enough pressure to assure that even though the parkway would be in place as a toll road, there would still be a service road that could be used for local traffic that would be a non-toll road. And a lot of that is thanks to Catherine and a group of property owners in the Mount Clemens Sorrento area that fought very hard to have that service road in place. Here we are in 2014, and construction of the road has actually begun. And I have a map with me tonight, and you may have been following this, you may have gone on the website. There's a great website, it's wekivaparkway.com. So after tonight's meeting, it's a great resource to go to and actually see the specific segments of the road. They're being done by two separate agencies. The Orlando Orange County Expressway Authority is doing a portion of this, and the Florida Department of Transportation is doing the other portion of this. So you all remember when the 429 opened, about a year or so ago, when we actually got the most recent segment built? Well, at that terminus, that's where it's going to continue on north, and that will be essentially part of the parkway. And TJ, I might ask you to come up at this point so we can, we can look at the map itself. All right, can everybody see this? Maybe if we just pull it up. Okay, so this is the area now where essentially down here on 441, where the 429 ends, dead ends into 441. It's going to continue north, and then it will come up to Kelly Park Road. And the interesting thing about this is that this is going to be completed long before it actually moves into Lake County. So there is some concern that once it opens at Kelly Park Road, that a lot of Lake County traffic will find its way to this access point and vice versa. So we're looking at what this is going to do to our local roads and what can we start doing now to be prepared for that. At that point, it will go east over towards 435, if you're familiar with 435. It's a windy road, and they are actually building that portion right now. And that will be opened 1 year from now. The 435 portion, just from here to here, is going to be open. It's the first part of the parkway that will be open. It'll be elevated. It'll go through an area called Neighborhood Lakes property, and that's a preservation area. It actually should be very beautiful, a beautiful drive through there. And it'll just pop up onto 46, and 46 will continue to be 46 at that point. And that will be the first part built. We'll see this open. What are they anticipating up to Kelly Park Road?
I was still to Kelly Park within 4 years, and the rest on the will be over the next 6 years.
Okay, so on into Mount Dora in the next 6 years. So it's not going to happen tomorrow. However, I think we're going to start feeling the impacts pretty soon. In fact, we're starting to see some activity over in this area on 46. There's a large portion of property. It's about 800 acres that Mount Dora has designated for years and years as a, quote, employment center. And I brought a map of that tonight, so you can take a look at that. But that is, in Mount Dora's, the vision of Mount Dora is that one day that area will be something similar to, say, a Lake Mary, where the Heathrow area, where you have the corporate headquarters for AAA, and you have basically a location where large companies can come have their corporate headquarters. You would have light industry. They have been working on a study, a market analysis to determine what would be the best uses, the most likely uses, and they are going to be sort of marketing that area for that purpose, and they have developed a master plan. But what's happening is that property owners that have land there, and some of them, there are homes right there in that area, so they will have the opportunity to stay in their homes, but what will be happening around them will be very different than how it has historically been. There will be probably a lot of opportunities for folks to sell their homes to developers that would want to buy several up and package and plan and try to develop in that area. But so we're seeing that interest happen now. There has been some, I'm trying to think of the terminology, where somebody comes in and they buy several parcels and they put them together. Well, there's that, you can call it speculation, but they're actually trying to piece together aggregating parcels, yes.
So that section's on the north side of 46, is that right?
That will be on the north and south of 46, about half of it. So picture where Round Lake Road is currently.
Right there, that intersection.
Right, and I have a map that goes into a lot of detail, so you can see whether you're actually in that area or not. Mount Dora is planning in such a way that there will be nice buffers between the different land uses, so that you're not going to have, when we say industrial, we're talking about industrial that's inside of facilities, not smokestacks and that type of thing. But yeah, these maps will be very helpful if you live right in that area to see how that affects you. But so that's one of the last parts of the parkway that will be completed, and then 46 will eventually, State Road 46 will become County Road 46. And the county will take over the maintenance of 46 and that service road, the non-toll road. And then the FDOT will be responsible for a portion of the parkway, and the Expressway Authority will be responsible for the other portion of the parkway. I can tell you this about the bridge. If you're interested, I went to a presentation the other day on the bridge. The bridge is going to be phenomenal. I can't believe I'm that excited about a bridge, but when I saw what went into this process, because I've gone out on the river, I've kayaked on the river, I don't know how many of you have done that before, but it's just gorgeous. It's just such a jewel, the Wekiva River. And to see the thought that went into planning this bridge, they brought in experts that have planned bridges all over the United States in national parks. And so they show, what they do is they take the setting of the park and they try to blend the bridge into that setting. So if it's a place that is, say, in Arizona, and you see, lots of orangey red rocks and so forth, they dye the concrete of the bridge so that it just blends in. And so they're doing the same thing here, where they're going to take like the brown and green tones, and the bridge will span the entire river so that there will not be any pilings down in the river like there are now. And it'll actually be 3 separate segments. You'll have your east, your west, and then you'll have your service road. And then on the service road, there will be a trail connecting Lake County's trail system. That's, it's a fledgling trail system, but the idea is that we will have a trail that will go all the way into Mount Dora, so you can hike, walk, bike, and then you can go across the river and then get into the Seminole Trail system. And the same thing with the Orange County Trail system. It's down in this area. And so the Lake County will be working on a trail here and have a trailhead so that you can then get on the Orange County Trail system. So all of that is ancillary to the road itself, but it is something I think that enhances the quality of life for residents in East Lake County. I think that it helps our property values. I think that it helps us maintain, we use the term quality of life a lot these days, but I think truly that type of a trail system will attract the type of development that will be high quality development. We're going to get development. There's just no way around it. But we, at least I want, and I think that most people in this room would feel this way, we want to see high quality development. We want development that enhances our area and is not a drain on our public facilities and public safety and so forth. But to give you some, TJ's your arm getting tired.
That's good.
But to give you some assurance that with that development, we're not going to see just wide open, willy-nilly growth. The land uses that were put in place back in 1988 that then were refined in 2004, and then Lake County adopted land development regulations on top of that. You have very low density even in the Mount Plymouth-Sorrento area. 2 units to 1 acre, that type of density. 50% open space requirements. In Mount Dora, there are developments that are already on the books, and you can go to City Hall and you can see what's already on Mount Dora's land use map. And I think that that's pretty much the extent of it in Mount Dora. I mean, they have things that are on the books that haven't been developed, but there's not a whole lot of other areas where you would see residential development. This is the land use map, and it gives you an idea of how green this area is and how low the density is. This is 46 coming across here, and this is the Mount Plymouth-Sorrento area, and this yellow is 2 units to 1 acre, and then there's a small area that they call Main Street that's along 46, and that actually can go as high as 5 units to the acre, but it's a very small area and it's designated for mixed uses, so you would probably see a combination of housing along with retail uses. I was really concerned about the aesthetics of the area as it develops, and so I was able to get the Board of County Commissioners to adopt design standards so that we put some minimum standards in place so that when there is commercial development in that area, that it has to follow standards very similar to what the city of Mount Dora does. So if you notice in Mount Dora that there's just a little bit extra to the design standards in a place like Mount Dora, where they're you know, they've got you know, requirements for the roofing and the you know, they don't allow you to have big long blank walls. You've got to dress it up with some windows or faux windows. Or you notice in Mount Dora they have like the bell towers. Lowe's has like a clock tower on it. That didn't happen because Lowe's wanted to do that. Mount Dora, you know, had that in their standards. Same thing with Target. So it's subtle, but when you don't have those kind of standards in place, you notice a big difference. So we've done that in Lake County so that would apply out in this area. There are also limitations on the square footage of commercial that can develop out in the Mount Clemens-Sorrento area. If you're concerned about it, this opening up the area and changing it tremendously, changing the character tremendously, I believe that the rules and regulations in place will prevent that type of sort of willy-nilly haphazard type development. It's going to be very methodical, and I think that everyone will be pleased in the long run. That's our hope, that those rules will have that effect. Let's see, I have a list of things. I wanted to talk a little bit about the roads around our local roads. The Round Lake Road, also Wolf Branch and 437. If you live in that area, you may be concerned about what will happen to those roads as this traffic, we see higher traffic counts. And TJ, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but I talked to Jim Steininger, the Lake County Public Works Director, and he went over the various improvements that have been made to those three roads over the last 10, 20, 30 years. He said that all three of those roads are designed to handle 12,000 cars a day. So to give you an idea of where we're at now, on Round Lake Road there are 2,300 to 3,400 cars today traveling on Round Lake Road. 437, on the other hand, has 6,700 to 9,000 cars on it today. Let's see. He said that, and this was something that TJ with the MPO and me as a district county commissioner was very concerned with DOT. What do we do right now so that we're ready when we start to see these increases in traffic? So we are working, or DOT actually worked on a study, and in the next 2 years we will do what they call a PD&E study. That will actually get into the design of those roads and what will have to be changed in order to make them function with additional traffic on them. For example, there's some discussion about 437. You know how it comes up to 46, and then you've got to drive along 46, and then you pick up 437 north. There's discussion that would actually be changed so that it would go, but it will cut across, and it'll actually, 437 will be joined together so that you won't have to go up to 46 and cut across. Let's see, where's, okay.
So the jog.
Oh yeah, the jog would be in here. It would actually make like a rolling curve south of 46, and they would join 437 together. So that's one of the things that they will be studying, whether that would make sense or not. Long term, there's discussion that there would need to be a north-south extension of Round Lake Road up towards the 44 area, but that's pretty far down the road, but it is on that the big picture of what would need to happen over time in order to make sure that traffic is distributed equally and in a way that doesn't overburden any one particular road. So let's see, let me see if there was anything else I wanted to hit. We talked about the LDRs. I told you a little bit about the bridge design. There are some things that change for folks that live on 46A. 46A will no longer, the way we currently go, if you're coming from 44, you're going to go this way, and run into 46 now, that segment is going to essentially go away. There will no longer be a connection there. We will now, in the future, we will go just past the entrance to Redtail and then make a right. It'll bring us down to 46, and then if you want to get on the Parkway at that point, you can get on the Parkway. This one, we went back and forth, and I was on the losing end of it because, like a lot of people that live in this area, we didn't understand why you would abandon a good stretch of road that's already in existence and build a new road. And it cuts a lot of people off from their homes. It creates a whole lot of inconvenience for people. It just seems so unfair to some of the people that live on 46A and right along that area. And we tried and tried and tried. But in this case, the environmental community, they fought very hard to get rid of this division of the Seminole State Forest. They felt by getting rid of that road, it would allow for the critters to work their way down to the Parkway and go underneath the Parkway. And this is one of those areas where the compromises I referred to earlier came into play because it just doesn't seem like you would spend, we're talking about many millions of dollars that would have been saved if we could have just left that in place. And we tried, but in this case, the environmental community won on that one. So
How many homes along there?
they will cul-de-sac it. So if you're on the east end, you'll come out. You'll be able to come down here, but it'll be a dead end, so to speak, if you want to go west. So, and there's also, you all may be familiar with the business cypress and things, the guy that has all the cool cypress things out there. Unfortunately, he's totally cut off from the Parkway. And so we're working with DOT to give him signage so that you will be able to get off the Parkway, drive up to his business, and then come back and get on the Parkway. And you can do that on the east end and on the west end. And Catherine.
Would he be able to get onto the he'd be able to get on the service road at 46 at the same time?
Yes, but it won't go right by his house, by his business. So, unfortunately, this is one of those cases where eminent domain and takings law and all of that, it doesn't give him any type of protection, because he will have access, he just won't have the type of access that he has today. So, but DOT so far seems to be cooperative as far as giving him some signage, so that should help him some. So we all have to remember, in fact, I'm going to try to find a location on 46 in Mount Plymouth where maybe he can have a retail outlet so that he would actually have a place, and if people were really interested and wanted to see the rest of his stuff, then they could maybe drive over to his business. But that's probably the business that is hurt the most in Lake County. Yes, sir?
Emergency vehicles that use that road now, they gotta go all the way around to get to 46A for those 4 or 5 houses that are on 46A where they're gonna put the cul-de-sac.
Right.
Is there any plans for any kind of emergency help for those people that the emergency units can go through rather than have to go all the way around?
Well, that's probably been one of the best arguments in favor of these folks keeping the road the way it is. TJ, you may have been privy to some of these discussions, but I think they feel that that they will be able to accommodate emergency vehicles. It probably won't be as good as it is now for them, but it will, definitely put them at a disadvantage in that way. Okay. So, questions? I talked just a little bit about the trail. How many of you are interested in the trail? Would you like to know more about that? Okay, the concept of the trail is the city of Mount Dora has been working with Lake County to try to acquire the old railroad bed that is, yes, TJ is pointing to it.
All in red, our trail is in red.
Okay, so this is the trail in red, the potential, the future trail. and it would leave downtown. They'd have a trail head downtown, and then it would go across it'd be right over here. Yeah.
That's your main street.
And then you would go across the highway on the old bridge that you see, the railroad crossing, and that would become a trail crossing. And then it would just follow the railroad bed until we get up to Mount Clemens Sorrento. And then somewhere in here it has to cross the street, right? We go to the south side.
When we get over to the trailhead at Camp Challenge, it'll be a big trailhead at Camp Challenge.
Okay. And then it will cross the river on the service road. So this dealing with the railroads, this is a really, really difficult part of the process because we have Florida Central Railroad who leases the rail. They lease the property from CSX. CSX owns it, so we've got to deal with both of those entities. We have to essentially buy out, Florida Central Railroad's lease, and then we have to get CSX to agree to sell the property. So we've been working on title work and figuring out which portions they actually have to title to, and so forth. And it's going to, it's a joint effort, so that Mount Dora would be responsible for part of this, and Lake County would be responsible for the other part to get it over to the river and hook up with the Seminole Trail. I'm going to let you talk about that. He's a trail expert. There's a lot of movement in the state of Florida to try to close some of the gaps. We have an incredible trail system across the state of Florida, and it's bringing a lot of people to Florida to visit. They come here to ride the trails on their bicycles, and or just to hike the trails and so forth. And there's a trail that runs from, you can take it from here.
I'll keep it brief. The way this is played out is DOT and the governor's office has said, it does make sense. It's one of the worst state in the nation for people getting killed walking and biking. It does make sense to have a coast-to-coast trail where you don't have to mix with traffic. So this coast-to-coast trail, 75% of it already has been built, and it connects from Titusville to St. Petersburg. So this is not a small project. All of that's already been built except for 25%, and this year we found out that DOT's committed to 10% of it more, so we're going to be up to 85% here in the next couple of years. Why this is important to Lake County? Because we talk a lot about, what's the new tagline? I love our new tagline.
Oh, real Florida, real close.
Real Florida, real close. So doing a trail that's part of a coast-to-coast concept, well, that does make sense for Lake County because we are a perfect county for ecotourism. So the idea is if we can get the spur, because where the coast-to-coast trail extends would be that portion from Seminole down to the West Harnish Trail. Get the spur planned along the railroad bed in Mount Dora. And here we have Lakeside Inn and all the B&Bs and all the restaurants. Because when you really look at Titusville to St. Petersburg, there's not a whole lot of places to stay and shop and eat along the way, but we have a perfect capture area right here where you're sitting. So this is a big deal that we can see this whole thing built in sync with the Wekiva Parkway and have people using it. This is not your day trip people that come, we'll get some of that. These are people that are going to come and spend a week or two in Florida and drop their dollars just to have this experience of riding from one coast to the other and never seeing the same place twice.
And then for those of us who live here, it's nice because we can come down to Mount Dora or drive out to Sorrento and, park our car and get on our bike and access all these other trails. And so if you've been over to Winter Garden, we've seen what it's done to their city. It's such an economic generator. So I think that it would really help Mount Dora and also Eustis and Tavares. And so that's what we're working on. But this first piece of it is getting the railroads to come to an agreement that is reasonable. They're not going to be using it. We know there won't be a train in that area, but they're the owners of it, so we've got to work with them. And thus far, they've been pretty reasonable.
Yeah. For a railroad, it would be awesome.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about how the service road at 46 and the full road are going to, are they going to be side by side? Are they,
They will be
one elevated, one remains where it is?
All of it's elevated.
All of it will be elevated. That was another great compromise because the folks that wanted the service road and the non-toll road, this upset the environmentalists because it would defeat the whole purpose of having the parkway elevated. So ultimately they service road itself would have to be elevated. So we will have an elevated service road for local traffic. Now, you know, you would think, well, who's going to use the toll then? Well, it doesn't really make sense to use that service road unless you're actually in Mount Plymouth, Sorrento, right along 46, because otherwise you're going to want to go the fastest route. The speed limit will be higher, and the speed limit on 46 will be dropped down significantly because this will become more of like a local road, not a through road anymore. Yes, sir. Another question?
I just want to point out something. For those of you that travel through Mount Plymouth, Sorrento, the middle, once this beltway is built and the connections are made, 75% of the traffic you see on 46 today goes away. It will use the beltway. So all of the traffic on what becomes County Road 46 will actually be local traffic and not regional pass-through traffic like we're experiencing now.
And I talked a little bit about the one business that we heard by the Parkway, but you can imagine the folks that have businesses on State Road 46 right now, Mount Plymouth, Sorrento, are concerned about what will that do to their community. We have set up a CRA, which is the Community Redevelopment Area, and so we've got a group of local business owners and property owners, residents in the Mount Plymouth, Sorrento area, and they're actually working on kind of a redevelopment plan that the intention is to create kind of their own little downtown district and to do things that will promote local businesses, and they will look at ultimately kind of making 46 look more like a local street, like a main street, not like a through road, and you might see sidewalks and some things like that happen over time in that area to help their business community. Question back here.
It was mentioned that the 429 would go up to Kelly Park, and then the rest of it would be built later on. How are they going to get to Kelly Park, down Round Lake Road?
That's the problem. That's what we think is going to happen.
I live on Round Lake Road, and I know there are more than 3,000 cars a day on that road.
You're probably right. And you know how these things go, they're cyclical too. Different times of the year, you see more traffic than other times. But that's our big concern from a Lake County standpoint. Whenever we go to these meetings and they talk about opening up this access point at Kelly Park, initially they said, we're not opening that up until the whole thing's done. And we were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now they're going to open it up as soon as it's finished. And this definitely has a big impact on us, and that's why DOT is working on studying that road. And TJ, there's another issue too. You can get to Kelly Park from 441.
See, Kelly Park interchange is planned for right here. So this is Kelly Park Road right here. And Round Lake Road is, for a second, Round Lake Road is right here. So there's about a 3 to 4 year period where the Expressway Authority, not DOT, but the Orlando Orange County Expressway Authority, if they get this open, then you're going to see some traffic deviating. But after 3 to 4 years, everything's built, and then all the traffic patterns adjust. So we're optimistic that 437 and Round Lake Road, although there will be some shifts, they won't be overburdened. But we're even more concerned about Lake County 435. Because anybody that's ever driven 435, that road is obviously not a candidate for widening. It's not their plan, and so we're really watching and working with DOT to deal with the fact that when you make this connection through the Neighborhood Lakes property, do we really want to attract a pocket traffic up into Mount Plymouth and over to this new interchange, or is there a better solution? And we're in dialogue right now with DOT about how maybe we could keep a rent connection at least towards Sanford, possibly. This is still early in the negotiations, but we're seeing long-term that, without question, 435, 437, Round Lake Road, obviously are going to have some impact to them.
And there's also, I don't want to frighten you, but there's a DRI that's approved for Kelly Park. And it's, I would imagine that those parcels are being acquired and put together, and development plans are being put in place for a large regional type development there, maybe a mall. There could be local college expansion there, all kinds of things. So
how far to the east is the interchange going to be on Kelly Park? You come down Round Lake,
It is-
you're going to go to east of
About-
Kelly Park.
It's 1/4 mile west of 437 on Kelly Park Road. That's where the interchange will be built.
over in Sorrento?
It's going to be south of Sorrento, right here. And so there's about, I don't remember this from memory, but about 2 million square feet of retail, office, all that kind of stuff.
And Mount Dora was kind of, over the last couple of years, they were concerned about that because, you know, here they were trying to work on their own, what we call employment center or commerce park. And Orange County was getting this thing in place before we could get ours in place. But that's just, you know, the nature of how these things happen. And I think that, you know, the Mount Dora Commerce Park employment area, the idea there, like I said earlier, is for this to be a really high quality, a draw for new companies that they want to be in Metro Orlando, but they want to be in a place that has its own character and close to the road transportation network. There's a lot of hope that at build out, you can see as many as 10,000 jobs in this Mount Dora Commerce Park area, based on the square footage and the types of uses that they believe will want to locate there. So this could be a really, really great thing for Northeast Lake County from the standpoint of job creation, high wage job creation, like we've never seen before in Lake County.
Yes, two questions. First, I don't know what a DRI is, if you could explain that. And second, Mr. Fish mentioned some of the dialogue that was going on. Are those meetings and where public input is allowed or public can just attend, are those meetings listed on WekivaParkway.com? Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, this particular action just occurred last week by the board I work for, which includes all the county commissioners from Lake and representatives from Sumter and the cities of both counties. And my board passed a resolution that said we are concerned enough to where we're going to ask you to officially study the long-term impacts of this Wekiva Parkway project, specifically on 435. That's the one that's the red flag. 437 and Round Lake, we feel like we've got a reasonable plan for it. But what's frustrating is when I go talk to Orange County, I asked a real simple question that probably would make sense to all of you. And it was, all right, Kelly Park Road, you're going to have a major interchange of 429 and Kelly Park Road. So what's your plan for Kelly Park Road? Will you ever connect it on over to 441? They didn't have an answer. So that's what we're concerned about is $1.4 billion is being spent on this parkway. So what's their local impacts? And so we feel like we've got our game plan pretty well over in Lake County, but I'm not so sure about Orange County.
Well, the 435 resolution, that was passed by the MPO, that TJ is the director of, and then that's going to come in front of our board. I put it on, I believe it's the next agenda to ask our board to support that. But the DRI, that's a development of regional impact. It's terminology that comes out of state statutes. And when you have a development that's so large that its impacts extend outside of its immediate area and into the entire region, you have to go through this development of regional impact process. And so that's what it is. It's that large of a development that they had to go through that staged planning process. Again, we're not quite sure how you can have the DRI like that in that location and not accommodate a road out to 441 from Kelly Park Road. It just doesn't make any sense. But
So I got here late, so I lived in Summerbrook, I just built a house out there, and that's right at 46 and 441. I didn't see what the plan was there. However, I was wondering, is there going to be any impact there for that neighborhood, especially going south on 441? And we literally have to go, if we're going south on 441, to go into the neighborhood, instead of a turn lane there, we have to go down to 46, go underneath the overpass and come back up. Now, I'm a cop for the city, so I can turn my lights on if I have an emergency going into the neighborhood to go across the median there. But I mean, that makes no sense. You know, my whole neighborhood complains about that simply because it's another mile or so that you have to go down the road to come back across. Well, are they going to be expanded 441 and 46 at that time frame, or in that area, and also on 46, with stipulation going that back east that way?
TJ, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. The gentleman earlier had asked me about Summerbrook as tonight, quite candidly, I realized that I need to know, now that the engineers are designing that roadway, 46 is being expanded to the north, so it definitely will have an impact. I just cannot tonight say specifically what that impact is, because I don't know, relative to the houses, to the entrance and all that. I'm going to go ahead and contact the project manager that's working for DOT. We're going to get specifics. I want to know things like, what are you doing to mitigate the sound issues? Are there going to be sound walls? You know, if a property owner is impacted so significantly, are you buying them out? You know, because it's not pay whatever DOT offers, it's you have to pay fair market value. So tonight is the first time that the flag came up on some of the roads. Now that I'm aware of it, I'm happy to go get all the details on it. But you're going to have in 2019 and 20, basically all the construction happening. That 46 will be widened from the north, from just east of Brown Lake Road, where the new connector from the Beltway comes in. It will be widened over to the 441 interchange. The interchange of Mount Dora will be completely reconfigured. What you see there physically today will go away. So it will be flyovers. Suddenly the new traffic pattern is not even to keep traffic on 441 as you come from miniatures. It's to deviate it onto 46 because that takes you to the Beltway. So I'll be happy to give any cards out, to get your names and any specifics, especially when the engineering issues are there. I'm not an engineer. I'm a planner, and I work for my board. But I have easy access to call up the project manager and get any answers to any specifics.
I've looked into it, asked about it before when moving in there, but I got as far as to DOT, and that was 6 months ago, and I still haven't heard anything back. Especially just trying to at least just get a turn signal, not turn signal, turn lane from 441 into the neighborhood there.
Yeah, when I hear somebody's concerned that the road may be within 10 feet of their house, that makes me concerned, because that's not the way we're supposed to follow it.
And TJ, you'll give them a card?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, I just have one thing to add to that, because I live in Silverbrook as well, and our house is the first house on the entrance next to 46. We've attended a meeting sponsored by Wekiva Parkway, and we were told that, for example, the sound barrier issue, I think regulations dictate that you have to hit 65 decibels, and they're estimating it'll be 64. So, we'll talk.
Yeah, we don't take that response from DOT. We really don't.
Are you talking to any committees about our neighborhood? You're talking a lot about 46A committees. What about the Silverbrook neighborhood?
Well, and like TJ said, I mean, this is great that we're having this meeting, because this helps us see that we've got to go to bat for our Silverbrook community and make sure that DOT
And why are they
understands what our
building north
concerns
and
are.
there's more room to the south on 46? There's less houses on that side of the road.
Yeah.
They picked the north really specifically because when they did the project development environment study, they had less issues to contend with on the north side. That doesn't mean it's right. It's just when they weighed out pros and cons and said north makes more sense to us than south. But again, tonight is the first time I've ever heard this concern, so I'm going to jump on it. Commissioner Campione knows, number one thing that the MPO is here for is to deal with federal and state government, but you know bureaucracy. We're going to make sure our local voice is heard, so we'll fight whatever we fight to get this issue off the board. But now that I know about it, I can help.
How much wider is it, 46?
It's going to be 6 lanes ultimately,
They're going to build 4, but they're planning the right-of-way, and they're going to design it to be expanded to 6. Now, when they do the projections, you don't need 6 to open in 2021, but you could need 6 lanes after 2030.
And that would be from 441, going west to the east.
New
East of the
interchange.
Beltway.
Well, then that's definitely going to encroach into Silverbrook at that point in time then.
Yeah.
Seems that way.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
If anyone wants to buy a house, I got a great
This is
Sell it to
give you
an
an idea
environmentalist.
of what the interchange will look like. This is Round Lake Road, and then this will be the Parkway coming up, and this will be the interchange up into what's a big green field right now. It used to be a golf course driving range, I think, right over in that area.
So State Road 46 will be officially across Round Lake Road to this new configuration, and then 46 will do this down to 429. This becomes County Road 46.
And then it tapers back into 2 lanes.
Yeah.
Is there going to be widening of Round Lake to the south?
Probably
Take
not.
blame for that?
The other night I was at a meeting and the guy said, Round Lake Road will not be 4-laned on the south side.
Right.
It will be 4-laned on the north side.
That's only if we ever actually connect Round Lake Road
To the north to 44, that all hinges on that happening. If that doesn't happen, then you're not going to see the expansion. Catherine?
Leslie, what assurance is there that the service road 46 going east of Sorrento will not in time become a third lane? What assurance is there? Do you have that will always be a service road? Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, the way they're planning it, there's no other option. I mean, once it gets built, the way it's being designed, it is only a service road and it is a low-speed road. And I wanted to say this earlier, but on when we talk about the bear crossings, you see a little bridge out there now. The reason all this stuff's getting elevated as you go to the Wekiva River is they are building a 1,000-foot span and a 2,000-foot span for the critters to go under. So because of the extent of those crossings, and these are not little bridges, these are major, major spans, they cannot elevate the road for the crossings and they get it back down to ground level in time to get it back up to the next crossing. So they're just elevating the whole thing. And that includes 4 up to 6 lanes of 429, 2 lanes of what will be the service road, toll-free, and then the Wekiva Trail.
And I didn't realize until I saw the bridge design that the bridge is actually in 3 sections of the river. So it's not just one huge expansive concrete bridge. It's the east, the west, and then the service road. And in between them, there's a gap. So if you're in a canoe underneath and you look up, you're going to see blue sky in between each one of those spans.
How tall are these critters? I think it's a 24-foot clearance.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know where the toll exchanges are going to be along the road?
No.
Well, we do know here, right? Well,
Yeah, there will be. That's what's funny about this is because DOT is building most of this, but in Orange County, the Expressway Authority is, there's still this thing going back and forth between the state and the Expressway Authority about where the toll booths are. Because Expressway Authority definitely wants one between Lake County and Kelly Park Road. And then DOT has to be able to pay for the road as a toll road. So they're talking about possibly 2 toll booths from Kelly Park Road before you get into Seminole County. So it has not been worked out yet.
So us Lake County folks, we was looking to drive on the service road.
I think I have a question how it's going to affect 437, specifically north of 46 to 44. With the school and everything in that area, is there plans to expand 437 or where is the closest interchange going to be for that area?
If you wanted to go south toward Disney on the 429, you might use 437 to go to the Kelly Park interchange and jump on that way. Otherwise, you've got the option to ride out to Camp Challenge and get the new interchange that's under construction. We are optimistic that 437 will not be overburdened if we do one simple thing. And this is just like with a balloon. You put water or air in a balloon and you squeeze it. That's what traffic does. 437, we don't think will need to be widened if we can actually get Round Lake Road extended up to 44, connected to 439, because then you create a grid and it disperses the traffic a lot more evenly. Our goal is we'd like to have no 4-lane roads in East Lake County once the parkway is built. All the county roads should stay 2-lane if we can help it.
With Round Lake, I'm trying to, you said, going north, so basically, as you're, going east on 46, from 441, the school is up that way. Are they gonna be doing any expanding of that road to try and get to 44, or how will that work?
I mean, not completely the answer yet. We're just doing the study next year to look at how many feet do we need? Do we widen it right off the bat, or do we just extend a 2-lane road up to 44? The whole deal is not widening the road. It's creating that grid system of just connecting up to 44. Because what used to be County Road 44B, and I know this is hard to believe, but it's been State Road 44 now for 7 years, but we still call it 44B. That road is slated for widening in about 5 years. And we do not want to widen any more roads after that one. If we get Round Lake done, it takes the pressure off all the other roads.
And trust me, those of my constituents that live along 44B are not happy about that widening. But we are assured by the engineers that that will make traffic flow a lot easier and that it will actually create traffic breaks so that it will be easier to get in and out of the neighborhoods on 2040. And there will be a sidewalk bike trail. So I personally like the trails because I think they're safer for everybody, the driver and the person who's on a bicycle. This driving along, riding bikes along the shoulders in Lake County is helpful for everybody. So the more that we can have these places, because we know that people like to use, they love to come to Lake County to ride their bikes because of the scenery. And that's one of the things that makes Lake County so nice. But trying to make it safe for everybody, the drivers and the cyclists, is ultimately our goal.
One more question. Yeah, one more question and we're gonna wrap up. Okay. Unless.
I have one really off-the-wall question I have to ask. Yes. Okay, I'll say it again. But I heard that there's a bat colony in the bridge at 46, 41. Has there been any talk about exactly how those will be handled?
A bat colony where, sir?
Underneath the
Near your home in Somerville?
Repeat the question, please.
I've been a cop for the city for 6 years, and I haven't seen a bat nowhere near that area. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, over at 46 and 441.
Can you repeat the question?
I'll talk to you.
The question was about a bat colony underneath the 441 interchange with 46. Okay, it is interesting. Anything else? One more.
Construction going to be on 441 when they're going to start 6 lane on 246.
That's one of the last things, right, TJ? Or they start working on 441. Well, and I'll be around if you want to talk about any other county issues.